And we are back at it to get back started on this session. And we're reading on the real side by Mr. Mel Watkins. We're on chapter 11. Chapter 11, section 3 is what we're on, but folklore and street humor. So let's see, we get it today. Everything situated to go. Come on in, and let's begin. Don't forget, man, we about to whatever book, not book, whatever shit I don't understand, or if it's a word I don't know. Hey, we're gonna look that thing up, man. We're gonna look that thing up. So, without further ado, without further ado, let's see, we got rocket. All right, fuck it. We'll rock with that. We'll rock with that. All right. Let's go ahead and get on the real side going. On the real side by Mel Watkins, A History of African American Comedy from Slavery to Chris Rock. Man. Section 3 of chapter 11, On the Real Side. Let's get it. On one level, so-called bad niggas were merely African Americans who, long before the 60s civil rights movements, refused to participate in the elaborate hoax that had defined American racial relationships and stood up for their rights as citizens. They insisted upon being ships. They insisted upon being treated as equals, rejected traditional obsequious postures when interacting with whites, and refused to adopt trickery and deception as the means to desired ends because those strategies superficially appeared to affirm inherent white superiority. In effect, they stepped outside or shattered the covert racial pact that the critic Robert E. Hemingway aptly calls a ritual of self-delusion in which both blacks and whites participated. Now, broadly speaking, from slavery to at least the 1950s, the rigid structure of racial oppression forced blacks to face a dilemma. Either, I don't know what this word is, accede, 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 either accede to segregationist policies or outwardly accept inferior social status. Either accede, either go with it. That's what I think it means. Accede, 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 accede. Either go along to segregationist policies. I think that's what that means. Accede. ACC. Accede, to agree, to become invested with, to exceed. That don't sound like exceed, like to exceed something, to pass them. I accede to segregationist policies and outwardly accept inferior social status, or risking harsh reprisals, defy the white hierarchy and demand the rights and respect accorded non-black Americans. Accede. Accelerate, exceed, acapella, accelerate, exceed. The word is exceed, A-C-C-E-D-E, to agree. Either agree to segregationist policies, or either become invested with segregationist policies, or either accede. Or risking harsh reprisals, defy the white hierarchy and demand the rights and respect accorded non-black Americans. Now, naturally, there were infinite gradations. What am I reading this? Sucking. There are infinite gradations in each of these choices. Accommodationists, for instance, included proper middle-class blacks who salvaged some respect and gained a degree of acceptance by conforming to white norms of behavior and thought. Tricksters, or fabulists, who, whether adopting the posture of a middle-class Negro or that of docile Negro sycophant, used subterfuge and deceit to undermine the racist structure. And those blacks who accepted the stigma of inferiority as reality and capitulated to their lowly status, bad niggas were distinguished by their oh man, I'm reaching some words that's stumbling me. Belligerence. Belligerence. I am tripping. Bad niggas were distinguished by their belligerence. They either extended their defiance to white society and its symbol of authority, or they confined it to the black community. Although those who did the latter commanded a certain respect, or at least grudge difference. Admiration was mostly reserved for those who stood firm against white oppression. Now, under slavery's absolute tyranny and violent suppression, resistance was most effectively expressed indirectly through subterfuge. And as black folklore and humor indicate, such tricksters as the slave John were as much admired as leaders of slave rebellions. But after emancipation, as direct resistance to white dominance assumed less risk, the physical strength and courage of bad niggas who defied white society increasingly established them among black Americans' foremost heroes. Now, at the same time, institutionalized racism and Jim Crow laws ensured that African Americans who insisted upon the fair treatment normally accorded non-black Americans would frequently run afoul of the law. Now, bad niggas, then particularly those who challenged rigid, strictly enforced customs about Negroes' proper behavior and place, were regarded as criminals by mainstream society. I think that would be me. I would be regarded as a criminal. What? Do what? Oh, man. Ironically, although the bad nigga of folklore fame is invariably masculine, and women are usually regarded as adversaries. From a broader perspective, Rosa Parks, whose refusal to accommodate a Montgomery, Alabama segregated seated policy symbolically sparked the '60s civil rights movement, looms as one of the most socially effective representatives of the type. Now, defiant blacks continue to assume more heroic status in real life as well as African American folklore and humor. Now, as they did, the mythical bad nigga gradually assumed more outrageous, antisocial, and violent proportions. For example, despite his superhuman physical prowess, John Henry was a comparatively conventional folk hero. Alan Dunn suggests that the legend's near instant popularity among mainstream whites shortly after it surfaced at the turn of the century derived partially from the hero's benign nature. The fact that he does not challenge white sovereignty, Now, the steel driving man's victory is over a machine, and since he dies and receives no recompense for his efforts, Dunn suggests that the legend encapsulates the evils of exploitation. There are more, however, there were, however, more belligerent black folk heroes on the horizon who would bring a new, disdainfully satiric dimension to African American humor. Their attitude was, as Saunders Redding describes it, not only truly exuberant, but encouragingly irreverent, showing a decided lack of respect for most of those values: thrifts, industries, honesty, content, contents, continence, and gentility, so loftily enshrined in the hierarchies of American values. Man, I feel like I am reading some old school shit with these, the way they putting these words, enshrined. So loftily enshrined with hierarchies of American values. Oh, how you feeling? Can you see? Can you hear? Can you talk? Oh, can you think? Oh, you have everything you need, my boy. You got everything you need to make it through the day. Look how handsome you are. Look at you. Good, my son. What's up? I'm glad that the Most High saw fit to wake you up this morning. I got another day with you. Yeah. I got another day with you, my bro. So what you about to do? I'm about to finish reading. Go ahead. You do something, my bro. All right. Eventually, according to the folklorist Roger D. Abrahams, in urban Negro lore, the trickster amoral, strongly aggressive, but indirect approach was replaced by the vicious bad man who carries out his aggression quite overtly. Drinkers, sadists, wenchers, the great Mac Daddy, Davy Winston, Railroad Bill, and Aaron Harris break the law of the whites and are energetically described as the baddest man in the whole world, or as mean enough and bad to whip his mammy and shoot his daddy. Some, like boxing champion Jack Johnson, were real people whose flamboyant lives inspired legends. Others, like the mythical Shine, whom novelist Ishmael Reed has called Black America's Ulysses, and critic and poet Larry Neal lionized in the essay "And Shine Swam On," were imaginative creations whose superhuman exploits express the pent-up rage and bitterness of the black masses, as well as their sardonic view of mainstream society. Now, because of his experience in this country, psychologists William H. Greer and Price M. Cobbs contend every black man harbors a potential bad nigga inside of him. In his essay on Jack Johnson as bad nigga, William H. Wiggins Jr. shows how Johnson's lifestyle reflected four principal characteristics of the bad nigga: disregard for life and death, pride in sexual virility, extravagance in dress and possessions, and an insatiable love of having a good time. Now, indeed, John's accomplishments in the ring and his prodigious lifestyle outside of it provide numerous examples of basic traits, attributes to the bad nigga, including scorn for the basic beliefs of middle-class white society. He stirred black pride and initiated a search for the great white hope by becoming the first black heavyweight champion and openly mocking hypocritical mainstream values. In the 60s, Muhammad Ali revitalized that search with his incendiary banter, outspoken anti-war stance, and conversion to the Black Muslim faith. Now, Johnson was much more controversial. However, his romantic conquest and his flaunting of taboos against consorting with white women also inspired a still popular euphemism for the male genitalia. Johnson, and according to some, prompted passage of the Mann Act and numerous state laws against interracial marriage. In addition, he inspired some boastful and humorous oral narrative. The Mann Act. What is the Mann Act? After the passage of the Mann Act, M-A-N-N. Let's see. Come on, phone. Come on, the phone. Come on, the phone. Oh, wow. What is the Mann? Let me see if Google working. Oh, I might not have it. What is the Mann Act? Oh, it ain't on here. Let's see if it's in here. Let's go old school. The Mann Act. M-A-N-N. The Mann Act. M-A-N-N. The Mann Act. I never heard of the Mann Act. Man of war, man without a country, man, Nassamusa, Manchester, Mann Act, M-A-N-N, the Mann Act. Has any of y'all heard of it? There we go, man, let's see, man. So German author is the first thing that comes up. Mann Horace, Mann Thomas, Mann Act. Bam, is it in this bitch? All praises for my Google. This is the Encyclopedia Americana. I don't know what year this shit is. This old shit. 1829, published in 1829. The Mann Act. Mann Act, or man, let me see. The Mann Act, a law passed by the U.S. Congress on June 25th of 1910, prohibiting under heavy penalties the interstate transportation of women for immoral purposes. Oh, you couldn't get flued out, baby. Ain't no getting flued out. They had a law on getting flued out. The legislation, also known as the White Slave Traffic Act, was drafted and sponsored by U.S. Representative James Robert Mann of Illinois. Look at this dummy. What's that boy name? James Robert Mann. Well, they made a law in 1910 where niggas can't bring white women across their lines. If I'm rich and I want to fly you to Jamaica, oh, bitch, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. under the Mann Act. all them groupies. Oh yeah, they couldn't come. Oh, I'll go to jail. Hey, whoever is on here, can y'all say something in the chat? Type of one or something in the chat. I just want to make sure the chat working. If you don't mind. Whoever in here, just put a one in the chat if the chat is on. So I can see. And then we'll keep going. In addition, give me 1 second. Let me check this chat. Or how I check the chat. I don't know how to do that. Remember to hey, I said somebody hit the chat, man. Give me a one, give me something. Press a 1, 2, anything. A, B, C. Type something. Let me know that the chat is working. That's what I'm trying to see. I want to make sure there's somebody coming here with some engagement. I can see it. Yeah, my bad. My bad. I was trying to almost fuck some stuff up. Trying to check that chat. All right. In addition, he inspired some boastful and humorous orals. The Yankees hold the plate. The white man pulled the trigger. But it makes no difference what the white man say. The world champ's still a nigga. The Yankees hold the plate. The white man pulled the trigger. But it makes no difference what the white man say. The world champion's still a nigga. Johnson's real-life accomplishments, irreverent style, and bravado were the stuff of legend, but his exploits pale when compared to mythical counterparts who, like great Mac Daddy, could boast. I've got a tombstone disposition, a graveyard mind. I know I'm a bad motherfucker. That's why I don't mind dying. And the ballad of Stackalo with his familiar opening lines. Back in 32, when times was hard, he had a Colt 45 and a marked deck of cards. Presented a character whose violent disposition and sexual appetite became the prototype of the legend. In one unexpurgated rendition, in one unexpurgated unexpurgated. Let's see what unexpurgated means. It's not in here. Unexpurgated. My yard.
It's a black one.
It's not in. I don't know what it means. In one unexpurgated rendition, I walked in and asked the bartender, "Dig, chef, or dig, chief, can I get something to eat?" He throwed me a stale glass of water and he flung me a fucked up piece of meat. I said, Raise, motherfucker, do you know who I am? He said, frankly, motherfucker, I just don't give a damn. I knowed right then that chicken shit was dead. I throwed my 38 shell through his motherfucking head. Drill music. In milder versions, such as the one found in the Book of Negro Folklore, edited by Langston Hughes and Honor Bonetep's profanity is eliminated and sexual references are expressed metaphorically. Therefore, when Stackley arrives in hell, he said, Devil, devil, put your fork on the shelf, because I'm going to run this devilish place myself. There came a rumbling on the earth and a tumbling on the ground. That bad son of a gun Stackley was turning hell all around. Now, meanwhile, Stackley went with the devil's wife and with his girlfriend too. Winked at the devil and said, I'll get with you. The devil turned around to hit him a lick. Stackley knocked him down with a big black stick. Now, to end this story, so I heard tell, Stackley all by himself is running hell. Now, the ballad Shine, whose date of origin is somewhere between 1912 and 1920, according to Alan Dundes, also has been told in expurgated form. There go that word again. Expurgated form. As its alternate title, The Sinking of the Titanic suggests the tale concerns the exploits of a lone black man on that ill-fated voyage. In some polite renditions, the story begins. It was 1912 when the awful news got around that the great Titanic was sinking down. Shine came running up the deck, told the captain, please, the water in the boiler room is up to my knees. Captain said, take your black self on back down there. I got 150 pumps to keep the boiler room clear. Shine went back in the hole, started shoveling coal, singing, Lord have mercy on my soul. And continues with Shine's escape. The old Titanic was beginning to sink. Shine pulls off his clothes and jumped in the brink. He said, little fish, big fish, and shark fishes too. Get out of my way because I'm coming through. Captain on bridge holler, Shine, save poor me, and I'll make you rich as any man could be. Shine said, there's more gold on land than there is in the sea, and he swam on. In its concluding lines, this version reflects its 50s origin when all them white folks went to heaven. Shine was in Sugar Ray's bar drinking Seagram's 7. But Shine, in the street version that most African Americans are familiar with, even if they avoid repeating it in polite company, is a much more profane and sardonic tale. In one version, after the captain tells Shine to return to the boiler room, Shine said, that may be true because you carrying a load. Says, I'm going to take my chances in jumping overboard. Captain say, now Shine, oh Shine, don't be no fool and don't be no clown. Say no anybody go overboard is bound to drown. Shine say, you may have them pumps and they better work fast. Say, cause I'm going overboard when that water reach my ass. Tell him, Shine. Tell him. Now, Shine's scorning of passengers, pleas for help is also expressed more graphically. All the millionaires look round at Shine. Say, now Shine, oh Shine, save poor me. Say, well, we'll make you wealthier than one Shine can be. Shine say, you hate my color and you hate my race. say jump overboard and give those sharks a chase. Everybody on board realized they had to die. But Shine could swim, and Shine could float, and Shine could throw his ass like a motorboat. See, Shine hit the water with a hell of a splash, and everybody wondered if that black son of a bitch could last. See, the devil looked up from hell and grinned. Say, he's a black swimming motherfucker. I think he's gonna come on in. Other versions are more explicit, depicting Shine's obscene dismissals of pregnant women and children who ask for help. She say, Shine, Shine, please save poor me. I named this kid after thee. Bitch, I don't care. I ain't even read it, but Shine say, bitch. Tell him, Shine. Bitch. Shine say, bitch. She say, Shine, Shine, please save poor me. I'll name this kid after thee. Shine say, bitch, you went and got knocked up, that's fine. But you got to hit this water just like old Shine. Get it in, bitch. Bitch. Bitch, you went and got knocked up. Now that's fine. But you got to hit this water just like old Shine. Or she said, Shine, Shine, save poor me. My little baby has a popping seed. Shine said, you around here looking like a pregnant pup. Go find that motherfucker who knocked your ass up. Don't call for me, bitch. Shine's rebuke of an infant is just as cold. After a bit, Shine met up with a baby. The baby was crying, and Shine said, baby, baby, please don't cry. All your little motherfuckers got a time to die. Baby, baby, please don't cry. All y'all little motherfuckers got a time to die. He said, you got 8 little fingers and 2 little thumbs, and your black ass gone when the wagon comes. And your black ass goes when the wagon comes. Unlike Stackley, John Henry, or most other heroes of black toast and ballads, Shine nearly always survives the plight, survives his exploits. And some analysts have suggested that he symbolizes African Americans' plight in America, the Titanic. Yep, it's going down. The Titanic is going down. Oh, man. Where they are relegated to inferior positions and denied equality. As the ship sinks, however, they are called on for help. Shine's rejection of those pleas mirrors the militant black contempt for white America's hypocrisy and its symbols of middle-class esteem. In most instances, however, the Bad Niggas Rebellion does not reflect social consciousness as much as a total abrogation of social responsibility, affirmation of ego, and an insatiable pursuit of physical challenges and good times. Now, violence, drugs, the domination of women, and the exploitation of normal working class people are often substituted for restrictive mainstream ethics and the inferior status derived from adherence to middle class values. A typical example of this is the hustler. Man. Old shine. Old shine. A typical example of this is the hustler. The name of the game is to beat the lame. Take a woman and make her live in shame. It makes no difference how much she scream or holler, cause dope is my heaven and my God the almighty dollar. I, the hustler, swear by God, I would kill Pope Paul if he pressed too hard. I would squash out Bobby and do Jackie harm, and for one goddamn dollar would break her arm. I, the hustler, kick ass morning, noon, and night. I would challenge Cassius and listen to a fight. I, the hustler, could make Fred Astaire dance and Sinatra croon. I would make the Supreme Court eat shit from a spoon. Another bad nigga, Dolomite, even as a baby, possessed the mythical powers. Glib rap, the contempt for authority that defines his breed. At the age of 1, he drank whiskey and gin. At the age of 2, he was eating the bottles they came in. Now, Dolomite had an uncle they called Sudden Death. That killed a dozen motherfuckers from the smell of his breath. Funkin' bald nigga. So Dolomite's aunt told his uncle how he was treating his mind power. He said, "Let me go and check this little bad motherfucker, for he go too far." So one cold, dark December night, his uncle came broken in on Dolomite. He said, "Dolomite, you better straighten up and treat your mother right. Because if you keep on with your dirty mistreating, I'm going to whip your ass till your heart stop beating." Dolomite was sitting on the living room floor playing. "Hey, uncle." He say, "Uncle, I see your lips going up and down, but I don't hear your motherfucking sound." Reflecting mainstream adherents of the bad nigga type, the toast concludes after Dolomite dies with, "And the preacher said, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. I'm glad this bad motherfucker called Dolomite is no longer with us." Oh, man. Dolomite. I might have to see if I can find me a book on Dolomite. Damn. All right. Now, violent, antisocial animal types are also found in urban toast and occasionally reflect the same values as such bad men as Honky Tonk Bud, Stackley, and Pimpin' Sam. Instead of Brer Rabbit, however, the monkey, who in many rural stories is a numbskull type, most often assumes the role of the bad man and emerges triumphantly. In The Monkey and the Coon, for instance, a dapper monkey hustles a coon in pool and, after some quick sleight of hand, also wins in cards. The pool shooting monkey relates a similar tale. But the signifying monkey, sometimes called the elephant, the lion, and the monkey, is probably the best known of these stories. Now, Oscar Brown Jr. recorded a laundered version to jazz accompaniment in the 60s, and polite renditions can be found in many folklore collections. Although there are versions in which the lion triumphs, usually the monkey makes a fool of the king of the jungle. The toast often begins with, "Said the monkey to lion, one bright sunny day, there's a bad motherfucker living down your way. You take that sucker to be your friend, but the way he talks about your mama is a goddamn sin. Talks about your daddy and your sister too. Matter of fact, he don't show too much respect for you. Now the lion took off a bat out of hell. Bananas split open and coconuts fell. Lion found the elephant sitting under a tree. Say, now motherfucker, you belongs to me. Elephant looked out of the corner of his eye. Say, go on, motherfucker, play with somebody your size. But the lion wouldn't listen, and he made a pass. The elephant kicked him dead in his ass. Now they fought all night, and they fought all day. Don't know how the lion ever got away. He crawled back through the jungle, more dead than alive. And that's when the monkey started to signify jive. Say, hey, Mr. Lion, you didn't fare too well. Seems to me you caught all the hell. You look like a hoe with a 7-year itch. And you supposed to be the king of the jungle. Ain't that a bitch? Now, motherfucker, don't you dare roar, because I'll jump down and kick your ass some more. But the monkey got frantic, started jumping up and down. His foot missed a limb, he fell dead on the ground. Like a bolt of lightning and a streak of heat, the lion was on with all 4 feet. The monkey looked up with tears in his eyes. Say, please, Mr. Lion, I apologize. But if you let me get my balls out the sand, I'll fight your ass like a natural man. Say, if you jump back like a good man should, I'll bounce your ass all over these woods. The lion stepped back and was ready to fight, but the monkey jumped up and was clean out of sight. And I heard him explain as he went out of view, tell your mama and your daddy too, signifying monkey made a fool out of you. Now, the signifying monkey is one of the most popular and well-known black folk ballads. I like that one, the signifying monkey. I'll come back to it. With minor modification, it can be enjoyed in even polite company. It is also among the funniest and invariable illicit gales and invariably elicits gales of laughter from listeners. Although this version of the tale has more in common with trickster animal tales than it does with typical bad nigga toast and ballads, it does echo themes common to those more blasphemous tales. Why are they blasphemous? Physical and verbal challenge, and abundant use of street language, and a contemptuous view of traditional symbols of authority. In this instance, the king of the jungle, whose wit and physical potence are ridiculed. In addition to advocating a more defiant and assertive posture, the story, like the bad niggas toast, clearly celebrates another fundamental characteristic of black humor: boasting or lying. As Thomas Kochman points out in Black and White Styles and Conflict, extravagant boasting or self-aggrandizement is not only a accepted form of behavior among African Americans, but also is a source of humor, a form of verbal entertainment. Conversely, according to Kochman, in ordinary circumstances, the practice is frowned upon by most white Americans. Now, the disparity is similar to the difference in black and white attitudes regarding hot dogging or flaunting one's accomplishments in sports, which was mentioned earlier, like trash talking. Of course, exaggeration and boasting are familiar aspects of both Euro-American and African-American folk humor. Outlaws, brawlers, braggarts, for example, are readily found in the frontier humor of Daniel Boone and David Crockett. The picturesque exploits of Simon Suggs or the tales of Mark Twain. Boastful exaggeration was a prominent element in the ethnic humor of various groups during the 19th and early 20th century. But although it still survives in some isolated pockets, America's melting pot syndrome worked to eliminate or diminish enthusiastic expression of folk humor within most groups. Now, Black Americans, however, were largely excluded from the pot, losing their hyphenated ethnic label or escaping the opprobrium associated with slanderous racial epithets by simply becoming Americans as most other ethnic groups had, was virtually impossible. Cast as pariahs or outcasts in mainstream culture and left to develop a cultural outside the norm, they maintained many of their folk ways. And the alternate folk culture was not strictly confined to the lower classes. In the introduction to Shuckin' and Jivin', folklore from contemporary Black Americans, for instance, Darrell Cumber Dance, explains that the folk tales included were collected from the completely uneducated and illiterate to the most highly educated, from some of Virginia's poorest, most obscure, and most inconspicuous Black citizens to some of Virginia's most affluent and most prominent Blacks. The educational and class variant found among his informants reflects the extent to which folk humor permeates African American life. Such traditional folk tales as the John and Old Master story, as well as many of the obscene tales from contemporary Black folklore, are as well known to Black professionals as they are to the street folks who created them. Away from their offices and out of earshot of white colleagues, middle-class Blacks often spice their conversations with tidbits from those tales, or more importantly, adopt both the patois and the tale's implicit satiric humor in their leisure joking and bantering. With few exceptions, the followers of certain fundamentalist religious sects, among them, Blacks have probably retained their traditional folk ways and folk humor more than most other Americans. Yeah, because they behind. They behind, and that's, shit. That's common sense. They behind everybody. Oh, yeah, this one's long. I said that yesterday, though. The good thing is we haven't had to look up too many words, though. I got 2 written down. 2. The expressive attributes most highly esteemed in the Black folks tradition, the verbal acuity and spontaneous wit displayed in signifying, boasting, and storytelling, or lying, also characterize Black American humor. Another characteristic of that as a joke, the progression from setup to punchline that the comic encyclopedia describes as a brief single incident, a comic tale stripped of all non-essential detail. It begins with the situation, has no middle, and ends with a surprise, an unexpected twist. I hear your husband tried to get a government job. What is he doing now? Nothing. He got the job. Repetition of such gags or even repeated recitation of one-liners. He had to fire his secretary. His wife considered her a security risk. Is rarely witnessed at black rap sessions or social gatherings. Damn. Got 3 more pages. 3 more pages. One-line rejoinders to greetings. What's happening or how you living? White folks still ahead or living large often occur, but although these responses are likely to evoke a laugh in black circles, the humor is not derived from the typical joke process. It flows from the participants' commonly held satiric view of the world and themselves. Humor in those instances is not based on unexpected twists or reversals. On the contrary, it is derived from the acknowledgement of the shared ironic attitude underlying the quip. Now, quick rejoinders or clever quips are admired. However, when they are spontaneous reactions to real situations and humorously underscore an alternate view, they are often a form of signifying. And the put down can be devastating. An example occurring in the film Do the Right Thing, when the glib sweet dick dismisses a character who is attempting to organize a boycott of the neighborhood pizza shop with the quip, What you ought to do is boycott that damn barber that fucked up your head. When it involves turning the quip to a new, innovative end, repetition of familiar one-liners is sometimes esteemed. A conversation between 2 men and a woman overheard at a New York bar, for instance, revealed the clever turnabout of this sort. The original folklore, popularized in a Richard Pryor routine during the 70s, concerned 2 men standing on a bridge and comparing the length of their penises while urinating. One says, "Damn, the water's cold." And his friend replies, "Yeah, and it's deep too." The response was put to an altogether different use in the Manhattan bar. After one of the men went on too long with a rap about how much money he had, the woman sarcastically snapped, "Fool, if your money was air, you'd have to borrow an oxygen tank to breathe." Bent with laughter, the other man said, "Damn, homeboy, that's cold." Without missing a beat, the woman quipped, "Yeah, and it's deep too." Which caused all 3 to break into spasms of laughter. Their spontaneous banter, which not only involves signifying and one-upmanship, but also inevitably refocused the punchline from the traditional folktale with which they were all familiar, in this case heightening the original put-down. Since the woman indirectly suggested that she was as much of a man as her would-be admirer, was a perfect example of spontaneous reshaping of familiar folk wit. Now, most often, reflecting what Geneva Smitherman labeled narrative sequencing, jokes are either embedded in longer stories with a non-essential detail that is stripped away in traditional joke telling, assuming a larger role, or the joke is redirected towards an unexpected target. Now, inventiveness or spontaneity and the ability to leave one's personal stamp on the story are prized much more than the simple recounting of a familiar gag. Now, during social gatherings, for example, whenever I have heard the joke about the black stranger who arrives in a small southern town and asks where Negroes hang out, The storyteller invariably embellishes it with a wealth of detail that, depending on his skill, was not only funny in itself, but also enhanced the punchline. In Harlem barbershop recounter began almost apologetically with, y'all done heard the story of that Chicago boy who got off the bunch in Lynchburg and made the mistake of asking some cracker where the niggas was right? Where the niggas was, right? Well, let me tell you how the stuff really went down. See, I was on that bus myself. As he told it, the 3 or 4 minute tale involved an aunt of his who happened to be at the depot, digressed through the nearly fatal attempt to use the bus station man's room, which was for whites only, and finally turned on the naive Chicago visitors asking a local sheriff for directions. That's when the redneck constable told that fool, well, well, the last ones I saw was on the tree over yonder, boy. If I was you, I'd get my ass back on that bus. I mean, way back. Now, similarly, when I've heard the tale of the black man who sees a white woman pass by and wonders aloud, "Oh Lord, will I ever?" It is seldom isolated and presented as just a joke. Typically, it is embroidered with the details about the woman's appearance or the black man's background, and often enhanced by references to topical events that occurred during the time the incident was supposed to have happened. In one version, the speaker spiced the tale with, it was back there in the time when Jack Johnson was regularly crossing the line. Nigga must have thought he was the heavyweight champion of something or something. So he said, yeah, boss, long as there's life, there's hope. White boy told him, and where there's a nigga, there's a rope. That's when the boy forgot all about boxing gloves and white folks. In both of the above instances, the tales were told by northern black men who normally spoke within heavy southern dialects. They were known as accomplished storytellers, however, and easily mimicked the rural patois. The jokes embedded in their stories were finally only the small part of the humor, which was primarily derived from their nuanced telling of the subtle addition of imaginative detail and expanded the elemental joke, placing it in a specific time and suggesting the attitudes that shape its underlying irony. Now, not everyone participating in rap and bull sessions, of course, is a consummate storyteller. Novice or untutored jesters who eliminate texture details that might enhance the particular joke or tale often find that instead of the tale itself, their inept telling of the story becomes the source of the humor. In a predominantly black bar in Ohio, I once heard a more respected, older storyteller interpret a younger man midway through the tale saying, "That ain't shit, fool. You Bob popping the damn story. Shut up and let me tell it like it was." These examples, the line contest and other forms of black jesting described in Hurston's Mules and Men, demonstrate the straightforward recitation of gags or jokes is frequently subordinated to others' expressive techniques in African American humor. The competitive emphasis in blacks' verbal play and signifying the value attributed the spontaneous tale and the fondness for embellishment of details and the advocative or dramatic recreation of characters all contribute to the uniqueness of the African American humor. Now, its mode of expression aside, however, African American humor is, as Saunders Redding wrote, primarily based on the ironic perception of the difference between appearance and reality. Included in that perception is the unavoidable discernment of pretense derived from contrasting the nation's democratic rhetoric with blacks' own experience of being largely excluded from the American's dream or national fantasy. Therefore, blacks' humor is most often not predicated on fabricated scenarios intended merely to entertain or symbolically to expose absurdity. Instead, since black life in America is rife with examples of such absurdity, much black humor derives from candid, unflinching view of everyday life. To some extent, mainstream America's social reality is African Americans' humor, a fact that no doubt prompted Dick Gregory's sardonic claim that the white man is our greatest clown. The irony of receiving flagrantly inequitable treatment in the society that boasts of its dramatic heritage, of its democratic heritage, has been a main source of black humor from slavery. We rise with the reap. They give us the corn. They give us the corn. To Richard Pryor's quip about the contemporary legal system. You go down there looking for justice, and that's what you find, just us. Although non-blacks often are confounded as to why such material is funny, for blacks merely verbalizing these obvious ironies has remained not only an indictment of white perfidy and hypocrisy, but also a source of contemptuous amusement. Contemptuous amusement. Humorous sensibility marks the place where it most clearly overlaps black literary humor, which turns the material of tragedy, protest, and satire into outright comedy. The grounding in reality of most African American humor is not confined to satire aimed at non-blacks. However, since the core perspective is on the disparity between appearance and reality, blacks are also targets and frequently are lampooned as vigorously as non-blacks. Now, slave stories often ridiculed ignorance and putting on airs among their own members are reserved the most pointed satire for those who, as in the tales of the slave whose prayers are answered by stones thrown on him by his master's son, were duped by slaveholders' trickery. Later in the rural South, numbskull tales in which the monkey's ineptitude is mocked coexisted with trickster stories in which the crafty monkey outwitted his opponents. Here we go. And although urban folk tales often mirrored the new militancy among blacks and as the bad nigga stories forecast the aggressiveness in the 60s, they still offered many instances of indirect satire. Whether aimed at the follies of black and white Americans, however, the most conspicuous characteristic of African American humor is its insistent impious thrust. Never fully accepted by mainstream society, most blacks never subscribed to the popular American notion that essentially humor was only a playful diversion or innocuous entertainment, one that only occasionally referred to pertinent real life situations. Following the libellous tradition of the African source from which it was partially derived, most African American humor, like that of mainstream society's satirists and ironists, is bitingly satirical. Initially, as was dictated, the satire was often veiled and presented indirectly. But gradually, during the 20th century, the folk humor emerging from many young blacks became more direct, hostile, and intentionally obscene. Frustrated and delusioned by the hypocrisy, the insanities, and the horrors they view daily in American government and society, Daryl Cumberdance writes, their bitter pessimism finds expression in perverse and sardonic tales, which have their basis in some of the veiled attacks in early narratives. Still, throughout its evolution, the humor has remained an integral part of the day-to-day routine or lifestyle of the Black community. It functions as the outlet for grievances and a vehicle for critical expression. And even as it amuses and entertains, most always reflects an underlying ironic version shared by most African Americans. As its prominent appearance in work songs, blues, rhythm and blues, and rap suggests, Black folk humor is closely associated with African American music. It always shares, it also, my bad, not always, it also shares many of the attributes normally associated with the creation of that music. One reason traditional jokes do not assume greater importance among blacks is that in music, as in blues tunes, folk tales are commonly changed, their details altered to give them a personal twist that fits the style of the storyteller or the priorities of the particular setting. While traditional urban ballads such as Shine or The Signifying Monkey are appreciated when related unaltered, and such long raps as the H-Rap Brown monologue mentioned earlier are admired, the highest regard is reserved for spontaneous wit and inventiveness. Therefore, traditional tales and ballads have infinite variations. In verbal dueling and signifying, the most elaborate or devastating rap, after being heard once, can be cut or dissed with a clever situationally oriented, obviously improvised retort. Ah. In most African American humor, visual and auditory nuances play an important role as well. One thing that may be exclusive to Black humor, Gilliam continued, facial expressions and silences that we develop at one time become because we couldn't say anything to anybody. If you did, you knew you might be lynched because there was no way to fashion a statement that will reveal the anger, frustration, and bitterness. We developed a whole style with the mouth and eyebrows and even body language. What I call mumbling on the face, that's the source of that's all that I'm doing when I'm reading is mumbling of the face. Add to this physical style the crucial role that tonal semantics play in most African American discourse and the difficulty of accurately conveying in print the meaning of a humorous exchange between blacks becomes clearer. From its inception, African American discourse was intended to communicate while confounding and defying access to outsiders who insisted upon rigid denotative interpretation. Nearly every word or phrase had multiple meanings. Correct interpretation required familiarity with tonal changes and subtle shift of facial expressions, although means eliminated. Most audiences needed interpreters to decipher the lexicon of terms employed by rap during the 80s and 90s reflects its currency. It is particularly pervasive in humor, where tone of voice can determine the difference between mockery and praise, or insult and good-natured jesting. So despite their invaluable literal presentation of oral tales and anecdotes, folklore collections could not convey the full resonance of folk or street humor. Many critic folk tales might well have been appended with an old adage, "You had to be there." For non-blacks, however, being accepted there was unlikely, even to those who might have been interested. It was left to professional black comedians to unveil the broad spectrum of African American humor for a wider audience, to bring black folk humor to the stage, to unleaven its exuberant celebration of life, as well as to unmask its darker clandestine satire. By the 1950s, the process had begun in black theaters and clubs. Now, Red Fox and Moms Mabley were among the first methodically and successful sources for her down-home brand of humor, and in fact, some of her routines were built entirely around black folk humor. For example, in the monologue recounted earlier, quips about they Amy as opposed to me Amy. I don't remember what that means. And seeing all you white folks going on the green light, so I thought the red light was for us, are taken directly for familiar folk tales. That they are associated more with Mabley than with their folk source as a tribute to her talent and a reminder that folk humor is most vividly conveyed orally and visually. The early efforts of authentic folk wit and satire to a wider audience. Still, a performer who could transfer the full range of the rich body of humor to the stage had not appeared. And that was Section Humor in On the Real Side by Mr. Mel Watkins, man. A history of African American comedy from slavery to Chris Rock. That section definitely had some funny shit on it. You know, I definitely like the Shine. The Shine stuff was good. The Shine shit was good. But besides that, I think we're moving right along. We're going to chapter 12, which is called The New Comic. What you see is what you get. Let me see what this is. Well, yeah, that's it for the day, man. Hey, shalom to everybody. Thank everybody who stopped in. I wish I could have found out whether that chat was working or not, but nobody ever sent me a message, so I guess the chat wasn't working today. I guess I didn't put it on. But man, keep on pushing. We're gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep pushing to read better, to gain more information, to learn and to grow. One book at a time, one chapter at a time, one page at a time, one book at a time, one chapter at a time, one section at a time, one page at a time, line upon line. Yeah, little that little. Until we have an understanding, until we have some more information, until we see the things that was hidden in plain sight that many of us don't want to look into and see. But you know, there's that, man. Hope everybody have a wonderful day, a wonderful time, whether it's nighttime, daytime, when you see this, man. Until next time, man, SHILO out. SHILO out. Shalom.